why are some people short of excellence in their work? Because, of course, this we find across the board in many industries, in many companies. There are some people that are actually short of excellence. Why is that the case? Is it that they don't know, or they don't, they cannot be excellence, or are there some things responsible for that?
I don't think they don't have excellence. I think they're just not using it. They're not in their lane. So, for example, if I am a person who is amazingly I'm a people person. I get my energy from being around other people, and I'm able to influence and motivate and talk to others. If I was working on a tube, so this is my context back in the UK, if I was working on it as a tube driver, you know, driving the trains through the tunnels every single day, I'm going to absolutely hate that job because it's not what I like. I like to be around people and talking. If I'm just in a tube, I'm just seeing a tunnel and I'm opening doors, I'm closing doors, and I'm driving the train. I'm not doing anything. I'm not interacting with anybody. You're going to hate it. Absolutely hate it. So it's not that that person then doesn't have excellence. It's just that they're not in the right position. They're not in a job that's using where they're great. So I think it's about where people are finding that they absolutely hate their jobs. I think it's about them thinking, what do I like? What do I do? What do I do amazingly that I don't even have to think about? What do I do amazingly like I'm using my right hand? Like, for me, it's my right hand, my dominant hand. Um, so what do I do amazingly that I'm using my dominant hand? And I don't even have to think about. And if you're not in a job that uses that skill, then you're going to be perceived as not excellent, or a failing member of staff, um, or they're just not very good because they're probably doing something that's not naturally um, attuned to what they like as a human. So they just then need to go and find what that thing is and do that. So I think everybody has excellence in them, absolutely everyone. It's just tapping into the right post, job, career, whatever that will allow you to do that. So thankfully, I chose the right career. A massive part of my identity is that I like helping people naturally. Being a social worker, I help people. Um, I used to help children and families. I now help social workers. So it's who I am as an individual, and that's fine. I found a job. If I was doing something like, if I was driving a train, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'd be helping people get to work.
All right,
I
I
don't
get
know.
it. I get it. All right, now in the course of your work, in your professional work, have you come across somebody who was not maybe in this line of excellence that you have managed to correct, and this person get a result from your correction? Any case study that you can share with me, maybe as a student of yours, or maybe as a co-worker, or somebody in
Mm,
the line of your profession?
sure. So I was coaching a new social worker. So in the UK, when you qualify as a social worker, you have your first year, which is called your I forgot my second assessed and supported year in employment. So when you go into statutory social work, usually but not always, but when you go into statutory social work, you are supported within a program. So you have a reduced caseload, you have to do some additional reports just to kind of evidence what you're doing in your role, do some reflections and things like that. So I had a social worker who was in this year, and she had a caseload that was she should never have had. It was just way too much for a new social worker to have. So she was completely stressed out, and feeling like she couldn't do it. But because of who she was as an individual, she's actually very similar to myself, like in terms of if failure is crippling. So she felt that because she wasn't able to manage everything, or she felt like she wasn't able to manage everything, that she was completely failing at everything. So what I was able to help her to do was we went through the assessment. I explained to her about her perfectionism and how she wants to make sure that everything is great, but then also acknowledged that the workload that she had was was not okay. And anybody would struggle with that. Even a manager, a very experienced social worker, would struggle with the caseload that she currently had. So what I was able to help her do is kind of just acknowledge some of her fears in terms of failure and letting people down. Um, Also provided her with some advice around how to mitigate against some of those challenges that she was having, even just down to putting in some foundations in terms of what to do to sort out a schedule, because she was so overwhelmed she couldn't even think about what she needed to do first. So my coaching sessions were for her were very much led by her, and I kind of had some backup things to do. And I just said at one point, I just said, look, let's just do your schedule for the next few weeks about what you're going to be doing when. Because she was working weekends, she was working evenings, she was working on annual leave, which is just unfortunately so typical for social workers. And I was just like, no, you're in your first year. You just come into the profession. We're not setting you up as the foundation of what your career looks like going forward. So I was able to help her kind of just set down some foundations of, set down a schedule, sorry, of what she could be doing, what she needed to block out, what her calendar looked like, just some practical tips about how she could do it all. And she was able to. And I got a really lovely email from her when she had finished kind of her first year, saying that she was reflecting over the year. She feels so much better as she's come out of the year. Two of her cases that were quite really challenging at the time had come to an end, so she had a lot more space anyway. But she certainly thanked me for the support I was able to give her, because it not only helped her to understand the way that she thinks, but also just that practical support of helping her work out what was a priority and what wasn't, was so key to helping her just feel like, okay, I just need to focus on this today. I don't need to worry about everything else. And even just giving her the permission to turn her phone off at 5 o'clock because she felt like she needed to keep her phone on. I said, there are services that happen that kick in at 5 o'clock that can take a call. You don't have to keep your phone on 24/7, your work phone, turn it off. And it's almost as if she needed permission to be able to do that. Even though she knew she could, I was saying to her, turn your phone off at 5. The emergency duty team will pick it up if anything happens. It is not your responsibility. So yeah, so that would, I would say that she was the first person that came to mind when you mentioned that, because she was really struggling and was able to come out of the other end, really reflect on it, say that it wasn't okay, it was extraordinary what she was doing, but she did, like, I celebrated her. And I think that's also important. When things go well, you get through it, celebrate your wins. Like, that was, I said, listen, I don't even know if I would have been able to. I mean, I would have, but I wouldn't want to. I definitely wouldn't want to have had her caseload. But I said, look at that. That is going to set you up amazingly for the rest of your career. Because if you can handle that in your first year, you're going to be awesome. Not to say that you should allow your manager to then pile that on you forever, because that's not okay. That's not your new baseline. But it was phenomenal that she was able to come through it and do all of that work, because it wasn't okay, but she got through it and it was amazing. And I was able to help her through that as well.
Thank you for that. That is very important. And
Yes.
people also, of course, need to understand that you have gone through this process. That is why you are talking about it. You are talking about your experience, and you are also now helping people to be able to overcome some of these challenges. Okay, we have gotten to a point where we tell our guests to advertise themselves. So for people that want to get to know you, how can they connect with you? Are you having offer there? So use these small seconds for it.
Okay, no problem. So you can connect with me via LinkedIn. My name is Nadine Boyne on LinkedIn. I also have an Instagram which shares a bit more of my own story and the things that I do in my own life. So on Instagram, I am Nadine.klb. And if you are a social worker out there, wherever you are in the world, and firstly would like to contribute towards my book, get in contact. Either send me a message on LinkedIn or Instagram. I also have a Instagram specifically for the social work coaching that I'm doing. It's currently under development, and I will be starting to put some stuff up in April. So 1st of April, you will see some more posts going up to give you some information about helping you to understand yourself, themselves, and how that would relate to you as a practitioner. It is tailored to social workers, but the information would be for anybody. So feel free to follow me, and that page is called Social Work Discovery, also on Instagram, and there will be a page that is about to pop up on LinkedIn. So that is how to contact me. My contact details are available on all of my pages. So send me a message if you're interested to contribute towards the book, to get some coaching, or just to keep in touch and see what I'm up to. And as I start to develop all of my programs and start advertising things, if it's something that you are interested in, you want to understand yourself more, where you're excellent, then get in contact.
All right. So all of you have heard it. So get in contact with Nadine. She's really brilliant, of course, as you can see. All right. Now to come to the last thing I'm going to ask you here just now, how to do with how do you, in a more practical sense, how do you develop excellence in workplace?
How do I develop excellence in a workplace? I start with individuals or the manager. Help the manager to understand who their staff are. Understand where they're amazing. Understand where they're not so much. Help them in the areas where they're not so much. And then you move forward in your excellence, and you need to value your staff. I left a job previously because I just felt that I wasn't valued. I felt like it was the toxic environment. Whether or not it was, that's how I experienced it. But it's important, especially at this time when there is the great resignation happening, people are reevaluating what their lives look like, and people are making different choices. I moved to the Caribbean in the middle of the pandemic. So people are making real different choices that are related to what they want for themselves. So people are more likely to stay where they feel valued. And if you can show someone that they are valued, and that isn't just about being paid, because I don't know if everybody's underpaid, but social workers do not do it for the income. They definitely do it for the outcome in terms of the families that they serve. But there is such an importance of being valued, and a big part of that is understanding who they are and the communication between everybody within the team. And I think that is the foundation of developing excellence within your team.
That's perfect. That is super. All right. Now, I've asked you everything I want to ask you. I don't know, maybe that is something you want to add or to clarify, because we basically have touched a different thing. And to conclude the conversation, do you want to say anything, or you want to add? It can be an advice or anything. Please go.
I don't think so. I think the only thing I would ask anybody to check out is, especially if you're living in the Western world somewhere and you're a bit tired of being othered, so you're a bit tired of being called ethnic minority, or you're or being called, in the UK I can think of, I don't know what it is in other parts of the world, but if you're a bit tired of being othered, check out a YouTube video. Just Google global majority, and it's by it's a video by one of my colleagues who I deliver some leadership training with. Her name is Rosemary Campbell Stevens, and she created a video which is also, it's about a minute or so, maybe 2 minutes max, and it just speaks about the global majority. And when you kind of just embody that whilst living in the Western world, in the UK, in the States, in Europe, for me, it just makes me turn up a bit differently when I just feel like, actually, I'm a member of the global majority. I'm not a minority ethnic group. Thank you very much. So yeah, that's my only last little plug that I want to put in there.
All right, dear Nadine, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure on my part.
Oh, it's been awesome. Thank you so much. It's been lovely.
I appreciate it. If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.